2020-21 to 2022-23. So what we want the honorable members to note from this particular table is that while government guarantees to public institutions are estimated to decrease by 81.4 billion to 478 by 81.4 billion to 478.5 billion by 31st of March 2023. Government's guarantee, on the other hand, government guarantee exposure will increase by approximately 800 million to reach 396.1 billion. Secondly, what's worth noting is that government exposure to SOE remains high, in particular, government exposure to Eskom. What the table shows us is that the government's guarantee exposure to Eskom increased from 298 billion in 2021 to 337 billion in 2022-23. The total government guarantee exposure is forecasted also to increase from 385 billion in 2021 to 396 billion in 22-23. Next slide. So in terms of the financial performance then of state-owned companies, we note that SOEs continue to face considerable hurdles in fulfilling their developmental mandates. The challenges that they encounter are many, and we've enlisted some of them here, including a lack of clarity in objectives, a multiplicity of mandates within their business models, improper costing of mandates, complex and decentralized oversight model, governance interference manifested in political appointments of board and senior management, non-adherence to international best practices in corporate governance dictates, severe breaches of procurement policies and weaknesses in oversight by line ministries and SOEs boards. So these are just some of the challenges that confront the SOEs. Secondly, what is worth noting then is that SOEs reflect weak financial performance. Most of the major SOEs experience sharp declines in the value of their assets, which constitute a fiscal risk for the government as they require fiscal transfers to cover their losses and to recapitalize their balance sheet. Next slide. So we've just here isolated the South African Airways just to demonstrate, the significance and the magnitude of fiscal support that goes to SOEs. But in this particular slide, we're looking specifically at SAA. So we note that the partial sale of SSA is yet to be finalized, subject to the approval of 3.5 billion to settle historical liabilities by National Treasury. We also note that SAA has not submitted its financial statements, I think backdating from 2017 up to the most recent year. They haven't really been able to show how they are doing financially, because the Parliament has not been given the opportunity to see their financial statements. And just by way of timeline as to what has happened to SSA, we start in the year 2020. We note that the 2020 budget allocated 16.4 billion to SSA over the 2020 medium-term expenditure framework period for state guaranteed debt and interest costs. Secondly, in the very same year, to implement the business rescue plan, an additional 10.5 billion was allocated to SAA in the 2020 MTBPS. And then in 2021, SAA exited a business rescue in April 2021 and restarted domestic and regional operations. In 2022, we see that government has significantly reduced its contingent liability exposure to SSA, and the airline is expected to no longer require government guarantees by the end of 2022-23. In addition, 1 billion will be allocated during the 22-23 to assist SSA with any outstanding obligations from the agreement reached between the rescue practitioners and the airline's creditors. Next slide. So in this slide, we're looking at the public infrastructure investment. The graph here shows public infrastructure investment, and we're covering the period 2019-20 to 25-26. And what we want the honourable members to take away from this slide, firstly, is that public infrastructure investment is expected to increase over the MTF period. Secondly, we as the Commission support the increased funding on infrastructure investments, as we know that there is a close correlation between infrastructure investment and growth. And however, the main challenge has been the management of this infrastructure spending, which has been bedeviled by mismanagement, wasteful expenditure, cost overruns, delayed project completion, and defective workmanship often characterize public infrastructure projects. So what we see is that while infrastructure investment is critical for growth, what has happened is that the management of this spending has been has faced a number of challenges that then makes it not being effective in terms of improving our growth prospects. Next slide. So in this slide, we're showing public infrastructure investment, but this time we're looking at the shares of public infrastructure investment across various sectors, but also with regards to public entities and SOEs. So what is worth noting is that the state-owned companies make up the largest share at 27.9% in 22-23. The shares of public entities and state-owned companies are increasing, while the provincial and local government shares are decreasing. So this has a number of ramifications, and we go into that in this following 2 points. What we notice that the increasing share of public infrastructure investment in public entities and state-owned companies indicates that government is increasingly implementing public infrastructure investment through public entities and state-owned companies. And as we've noted previously, when the Commission was making its submission, that this increasing trend is concerning because of the poor performance of public entities and state-owned companies. Secondly, the decreasing share of local government is also concerning given the huge infrastructure backlogs in municipalities, both new infrastructure and rehabilitation maintenance of existing infrastructure. Next slide. Chairperson, with your permission, I'll hand over to our chair to make the concluding remarks. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Thando. With respect to the Eskom debt relief bill, and insofar as it impacts on the fiscal framework, it is worth noting that in 2019, the government had made 23 billion provisional allocation per year to Eskom to service its debts and meet its redemption requirements. In addition, a special appropriation with conditions responsibility, which was accorded to Public Enterprise Department, Eskom was given 59 billion to assist in its financial obligations over the medium term. So these experiences raise doubts that adopting the same approach in terms of having special appropriations, even with conditions, to address the structural issues at Eskom would yield a different outcome in this current financial year. The Commission therefore recommends improving corporate and fiscal governance through reforms that enable state-owned entities, boards, to have operational autonomy. And also the Commission recommends the establishment of explicit and progressive guidance to SOEs on expected rates of return and the distribution of reinvestment of profits. The Commission also reiterates its recommendation that decisive judgment is made to deliver on return to investment effectively and efficiently. Next slide. With respect to the appropriation bill for this current financial year, the Commission appreciates the government's efforts to balance the protection of the social wage package, that is the SRD grant, and the increasing funding for delivery for basic services such as water and sanitation, alongside the provision of growth-inducing allocation to public infrastructure investments and funding additions to fight crime and corruption. As part of its oversight efforts, Parliament is recommended to understand how strategic departments will absorb the reduction in their budgets, and further, how the reductions are likely to affect service delivery. That concludes our recommendations. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chairperson. We'll await deliberations from your side.
Dr. Bava and the team, thank you very much. Mr. Chang Sen with the executive team again, thank you very much, commissioners. We appreciated the presentation. Honorable members, you know how we do it. Let me get indications of honorable members who would like to interact with the presentation. Thank you. Mamel. Honorable members.
Matafa.
Honorable Matafa, thank you.
Tobias.
Honorable Tobias. Honorable Tobias, good morning. I hope you are feeling better today.
Chair, I'm feeling better, but I cannot sit, so I'm still lying down.
Okay, no, we appreciate you are joining the committee. Honorable Tobias has not been feeling well. She has been in hospital, and we're wishing you happy, speedy recovery. Honorable members, I'm listening. Honorable members, Zanvalela ngaphandle, please. I've got Honorable Matafa, I've got Honorable Tobias. I know I saw, for instance, Honorable Lenzan was struggling with connectivity. I think let's start, and we'll allow other oral members to make to shout once they are available. Thank you. Honorable Matafa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Chair, Dr. Mbaba, and the team from the FFC, members of the committee and guests on the platform. No, Chair, I think the silence by members and my hesitation as well to take to the podium, it's because of what we have gotten used to from the FFC. Their presentations are very clear, straight to the point, concise, and very helpful. So I think maybe they are very clear. Even myself, I have only one question. And the question comes from slide 9, wherein a decline in the health vote has been identified. And I think it's important that we as a committee take the advice by the FFC that we should seek clarity on what this means for the poor who solely depend on public health services. But having said that, Chair, I also have a question of my own, and that is if the FFC have formed an opinion in what these movements mean in the context of the national health insurance. And if an opinion has been formed, can they please share it with the committee? Because members would know the NHI has been a contested concept. It has been in the public domain for quite some time. And there were very, one can say, contradictory movements in terms of investing, disinvesting, the position of the government as far as that is concerned, and the views of the private sector. So I have a keen interest on that one particular subject to hear what the FFC thinks this decline on this particular vote means, because I think that is where the NHI funding and investment resources would have come from. Maybe as a thought that comes up now on the issue of the SOEs, with the new approach by the National Treasury with regards to the debt relief on Eskom, what is the view of the FFC? Could this be a manner that should, or bailout should be approached? And do you think that it carries some nudging in the right direction, where in management of these SOEs will, in my view, start taking serious the usage of these resources in ensuring the sustainability of these particular entities? Because time immemorial, money is poured into the state-owned entities. Next year comes, again, we are sitting around the table discussing another bailout. So could this loan conversion to equity be a way that maybe we should try going forward to ensure that any recapitalization of this SOEs is structured? Chair, let me pause there, but to thank the FFC team for a brilliant presentation that was made, and you giving me the opportunity to participate. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Matafa, thank you very much for the input and the questions. May I ask Honorable Tobias, please come in.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, thanks for the presentation. I'm going to subject my questions to the comments made by the Chair of FFC at the end. Two issues I need to understand. First, the Chair said, actually emphasized the issue of autonomy of state-owned entities and companies. Now, as we all know, the scheduling of these entities makes them to account to the PFMA. Can the FFC be clear as to what are the suggestions that are being put on the table if we expect SOEs to be autonomous from government, whereas in terms of their schedule, they get their funding from a public purse? Can we get proposals there? Because they will have to be self-sustainable. Second is the issue of the returns in investment. The risk appetite of state-owned companies are not the same as JSE-listed companies. Can the Chair be clear as to what does she mean about the returns on investment on these companies? Because in terms of the shareholder compact, in all state-owned entities and companies, the shareholder compact estimates as to what should be the risk appetite. Can you expand on that issue so that we understand one another? Because it's a policy issue, so that as we move forward, we understand what are you putting on the table. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Tobias, thank you very much. Honorable Kaiso, please come in.
Good morning, Chair, and members on the platform. Dr. Mbava and your team. Honorable Chair, I like Honorable Matafa has said, really, FFC has made a very straightforward presentation and recommendations, of which one would like to suggest that we take those recommendations as a committee. Now, just on the point that has been raised by my colleague, Honorable Tobias, is on the issue of the state-owned enterprise, being accountability as far as the financials of the state-owned enterprise. I'm just, it just doesn't make sense to me that these state-owned entities being governed by PFMA, and we allow a situation of no accountability in as far as the financial expenditure reports are concerned. It doesn't make any sense because then that the Act governs that. So any cent, it should be, we then have to follow each and every cent. So in as far as the PFMA is concerned there, therefore, definitely they have to bring in a financial report as to how did they spend their finances since 2017 to date. It will make a lot of sense. I don't know what is the view of the FFC in that regard, because this is governed by PFMA. So we can't allow a laissez-faire in that situation. Chair, I just want to find out from the FFC, will the SAA be in a position, or what do you foresee as a situation of absorption of those workers, or which were affected due to turnover of the SAA during the period under review? I just want to get a view of the FFC that will that materialize, to what extent will that materialize, that rescue? Now, Chair, coming to health, I think I agree also with Honorable Matafa, and that, the economy of the country is also, based on how are its people healthy. So because they are needed for production from time to time. So now the health is also one element which determine the economic healthiness as well. So if we've got more unhealthy people at the production level, the more would have less at the production level, and also affecting how the performance of economy is concerned. So I want to agree that primarily the NHI is a key delivery aspect of the health, primary health care that's supposed to be supported at all times, material times. So, but then if you follow up some reports, you would see there are certain critical areas there, which one I would like a comment from FFC with regard to issues such as child mortality rate and adult mortality rate. So, because I think they are very, very, very much important in as far as primary health care is concerned, and therefore bringing in the issue of national health insurance. So one would agree that we need to definitely get, either if we can't squeeze them here, but we must get a written understanding from explanation from health department as to how is this situation going to affect